And joining us now from New York, Ryan Eggold, Jocko Simms. It's New Amsterdam as it enters its third season on NBC. It's in its third season. Guys, first, thank you so much for joining us. Let me begin because we still are right in the midst, even though it's getting better, the pandemic. We're in the midst of it. You're in a hospital show. What has it been like, Ryan, first of all, shooting in New York and doing a show that's medically based?
Yeah, thanks for taking some time to talk to us, Ross. New York was hit hard early by this pandemic, and the healthcare workers here were on the front line of the front line, trying to figure out how to contend with this virus, how to treat it, how to keep up with having enough supplies, how to manage too many patients, how to keep themselves safe, how to get a night's sleep once in a while, just this enormous fight that they took on. And so I think, Jocko, myself, and all of us felt this enormous responsibility to, if we're going to do a medical show, pay tribute to that incredible fight and the incredible dedication and sacrifice that was made from these real life heroes, and try to embody that for an hour of television, and reflect that story, while of course trying to find connection and humor and light amidst such a heavy battle.
Jocko, for you, what was it like as you had a show to do, lines to memorize, people to deal with, and you're in the midst of a pandemic in New York? What was it like for you?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I was so happy to be back to work, and I was happy that we were able to get our crew members back to work for the sake of themselves and their families. And Ryan talked about our healthcare workers. We work side by side with them, and they went to work on the front lines, and came back and graciously worked and helped us as they always do. But I was really blown away by the talent of the writers once again, for them to be able to have the foresight and write. I guess they started in the summer, writing episodes, not knowing who was going to be our president, if the old president would leave or not, if we had a new president, if we would have a vaccine, where we would be in the pandemic, and they just demonstrated their talent on a level that just blew my mind, being able to do that. We shot episodes in October that didn't air till March, and they all were still relevant. They all made sense, and we didn't hit people over the head too much with the pandemic. We touched on it. We have been paying tribute to those that have worked so hard, as Ryan said, the fight, and we're keeping it moving and letting people know and remind them that there are other things that hospitals are there to do. It's just been a great experience.
Let's talk about how the new season is going to develop, what you can talk about, because I know those attorneys say you can only say this, but and the fans want to know everything. How does Max change? Where are things headed that you can talk about?
Yeah, David Schellner, our fearless leader, wrote this great speech at the end of the first episode back in season 3 about, I don't want to fix the system anymore or make it better. It's not how can I help. It's how do we tear this system down and build it back up again, which I think is a sentiment that we can all relate to, wanting very fundamental reform in many of our institutions, in many ways, and really examining how did healthcare fail this time, and how can we do it better next year? Why weren't we ready, and what do we need to know, going forward? So I think it's about stepping back and looking at the system itself and saying, not how do we fix it or make it better, but how do we build it back again after this sort of reset, in some ways, the right way.
So you got two things you're dealing with. You got the pandemic, the technical portions of a hospital. You've got a daughter in the series that you're dealing with on that emotional lens. You start smiling at her. Where's that going? Where's that relationship gonna go, you think?
Yeah, I think Max is dealing with a lot of, sort of confusion, guilt, in terms of he's left Luna, his daughter, in the care of George's parents, Luna's grandparents, and to keep her away from himself, away from danger, away from the hospital, in an effort to protect her. And I think now he's wrestling with, is it safe? Is it time to bring her home? Am I being a bad father? Am I being neglectful? Am I missing her grow up? Or am I doing the right thing, keeping her safe? And it takes that toll, which again, I think is just reflective of the incredible toll it's taken on so many of these frontline workers who've given so much and not seen family members and all this. But yeah, I think he's really wrestling with that now. And, he's in this place of not even wanting people to return to the hospital because it's not safe. But you've got Helen and other characters saying, Max, we're a hospital. Like, we're here to help people. You got to let people in.
You use a good word, which brings us to Jocko. Emotional. What happens what's happening in your life now? Well, you bring us up to date. What happens now? You're back, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm back. I arrived to help a friend in need in Kapoor, and he barely makes it. We get him. I wouldn't say nurse back to health, but he definitely survived. So that's a good thing. And then, as you see, while he's there, his mother, he discovers has an illness, and she's fallen. And so he's kind of torn, he's dealing with the guilt of realizing that he didn't get the brunt of the pandemic, wasn't hit nearly as hard as his counterparts in New York. And he's also dealing with the fact that he's back at a place that seems to have moved on without him. And how can he just find his footing there? And then, of course, he's dealing with this relationship with Evie, which has definitely not been a walk in the park in the first place. But now we have the whole pandemic and his family to consider as well. So Reynolds issues are there, and they're plentiful. And we'll be tackling those as we progress throughout the season.
If you watch the show, whether you're a regular viewer or you just come in and go out, it is emotional. I defy you not to have the Kleenex with you. And to some instances, because it's medical, it's a bit scary. If it is for me, does it when you get the script and you look what's coming up, does it, Ryan, let me begin with you. Does some of it actually hit you either in an emotional sense or in that scary mode of, oh my God, I'm reading this on the page. Could it happen to me?
Absolutely, it does. The writers, our writers do an incredible job of keeping things real and keeping things relevant. And, I was saying earlier, there's some really bold writing this year about conversations around race and gender and social issues that bring people to the hospital, and inequities between patients and things, and things that are uncomfortable to say or examine or admit, truths that we should be exploring and sort of or untruths or stereotypes or there's a lot of really bold writing this year. For instance, there was this thing that I didn't know much about called the VBAC calculator that Erica Green wrote in episode 8 about, and it sort of calculates risk for women in childbirth with particularly having a second child post a cesarean. And there are statistics that are based on race, and this calculator very much factors race in it. It's sort of a conversation about, is race a factor in medicine in this way, or isn't it? And it's a really interesting, honest conversation to have. And a few weeks after we shot that episode, there was an article that came out in the New York Times or the Washington Post about asking the same question: is this VBAC calculator a racist tool? And should we be throwing this out? And to see Erica writing this, and then later, it just, as Jocko was saying earlier, our writers do an incredible job of staying ahead of things in that way and really, being bold and out front.
Jocko, are all of you, cast and producers, are you bonded a little more than normal with the medical profession? Are you guys talking to the docs? Are the docs talking to you? Are you getting some feedback from them during this pandemic?
Absolutely. Well, one of the first things that we did was we formed a large group chat that was cast members, crew members, producers, and our medical advisors. And we were, kept informed in real time as to what was going on during the pandemic. And we tried to help as much as we could. For one of the first things we did was donate all of our PPE to local hospitals here in New York, and we did that through the help of those first responders who were there. So everybody that the majority of the people I would say that play doctors and nurses in the background, a lot of them are actual first responders, and we're a tightly knit group. And it was great to keep in touch. And then once we returned to work, just to hug each other and to go in the trenches. So we do have a sense of unity and a closeness that definitely has been affected by this pandemic.
And just a couple more questions, guys. The part of what you're just talking about, Jocko, also extends to the city. I'm from New York, and again, I've only seen what I've seen on news, and the city kind of came out in certain support. There were those 7 o'clock things at night at the hospitals with the parades and all that stuff. Could you just, Ryan, let me begin with you. Just a little of what that was like for all of you to be in the city and to have that whole environment going on.
It was such a surreal experience. And I went home to California for much of it and spent a lot of time with family, and which was sort of a silver lining, sort of reconnecting with family and having that time. But coming back to New York a few months later, it was still sort of a ghost town. It's weird, man. It was really a trip, but at the same time, you felt this sense of unity that sort of we're all in this together. There was also a lot of, a lot to be concerned about too. I mean, beyond the pandemic, there were the politics at the time, the president who was in office at the time, marches and police. There was a lot happening, and it felt like a real moment to reflect and say, how do we go forward from here? What's the world going to look like after this? And now to be in this place of seeing the vaccine roll out and seeing people have these conversations, these healthy conversations about race, about gender, about inequality, seeing people listen, particularly to the Asian American community right now, but seeing this vaccine roll out and seeing businesses open again, seeing people go back to work, seeing spring come around and the sun come out, I feel a real sense of hope.
Thank you. Let me thank you so much, both of you. Jocko, Ryan, thank you. We will see you for the latest season for New Amsterdam. Thank you. Continued success. Be healthy and be well. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Russ.